the whole goal of raising a child is to help to get the guard dog out of the driver's seat. And once we can then access the true child, we can then help that child with these three important things: to tolerate frustration, to regulate impulsivity, and to make an effort.
Welcome to Deeper Threads, a podcast where we explore what lies beneath the surface, both in ourselves and in the world. I'm Lara Charles, author of Joy Regardless. Alongside wise and inspiring guests, we talk about life's big questions, the inner landscapes we often ignore, the outdated scripts we've inherited, and what they're costing us, all for one purpose: to help us remember who we are. Let's jump in. This episode is about raising our children, but it's also about raising ourselves. Parenthood is one of the best ways to help us understand what makes us tick. Why? Because these beautiful little beings we love so very much also have a way of triggering us, bringing to the surface all of our stuff. The stuff that may have been dormant pre-kids when we weren't sleep deprived or overrun with WhatsApp groups. So even if you don't have kids, please stick around. The insights shared by today's guest go beyond parenting our kids. They're also about parenting ourselves. And the tools she offers apply to children of all ages, including the grown-up ones. My guest is Mary Willow, a renowned parent educator and international speaker who has spent almost 50 years working with children and families. Through her private practice, Plum Parenting, she has supported close to 1,000 families with her unique and deeply compassionate approach. My husband and I have worked with Mary, and we use her tools and insights all the time in raising our 4 kids. Mary brings us the powerful reminder that behind every outburst, every slammed door, every tantrum is the true child or true self waiting to be set free. And in today's episode, she gives us some tools to help us do just that. So let's now meet the wonderful Mary Willow. I hope you enjoy this chat. If you do, please share it with anyone you think would resonate with exploring the deeper threads of life. And subscribe over at laracharles.substack.com for more conversations and reflections. The link is in the show notes. Mary Willow, I am just so grateful that you have joined me because you have been such a big influence on Phil and I's parenting journey. And I just am so excited to bring the wisdom that you've shared with us to the people listening. So thank you for joining.
My great pleasure, Lara.
Yes. So I know your background, so I thought I would just give people a very, very brief background to your incredible, vast knowledge. So you were a early childhood teacher and a nurse and a midwife for about 35 years.
That's
And
right.
after, I think in 2007, you thought, oh, there's so much knowledge. I'm going to bring it into my own private practice and start consulting. So that was back almost 20 years ago now. So I was wondering, in that 20 years, has there been like a common thread or a common problem that people have come to you with?
So what they were basically coming to me with was, first of all, the most common one was the extremes of temperament, you could say. So the main extremes are children who are obsessive about everything. So I must have it, I must do it, nothing's going to stand in my way, I'm going to force my way through. And at the other end, so that they're the more sort of defiant children. And then at the other end is the child who is avoidant, who is anxious and nervous and scared and, you know, would rather pull back. So it's kind of like two extremes of movement. One goes hot and fast, and the other is cool and slow and pulls back. So that's a common one that still comes up all the time. But then, so if I had to kind of break it down into areas, first of all, it might be a particular child who is not doing well for one reason or another. They're either not doing well at home, they're not responding to what their parents are doing, or they're fighting with their siblings, or they're unhappy in themselves, or something's wrong in that way, or something's going wrong at school. And I often get calls from teachers calling me and saying, we've got an issue here, and we want to know what we can do to help this child. And then that's sort of when there's something focused on the child. Then it might be the parents themselves. It might be like, we're starting out, we don't know what to do. It might be we've already done 7 or 8 or 10 years and it's all fallen apart. A very common theme, which may come up as we're talking later, is that we're following all the advice. We've been to this person, that person, psychologist, psychiatrist, assessment, this. We've followed all the advice, but we're not getting any results. And that one is a big one, is because I think what I have to offer the world out of this work is, what is it that, why isn't that working, and taking them in to understand that. Then the sort of third type of thing is things that go wrong. There might be a death in the family. There might have been an accident. Somebody might be sick. There may need to be a big trip, COVID.
Yeah.
You name it. Anything can happen that will disrupt family life,
Okay.
So I think that's probably the three
camps.
Something going wrong with the kids, something going wrong with the parenting, and of course, what often comes up is the parent-to-parent relationship. Or if the parent is solo, it's working things out for themselves, or it might be conflict between parent to parent, or even parent to grandparent, all sorts of things in that area. So I'm often helping people in the same way that I help people to understand children. I'm helping the adults to understand themselves using the same framework.
Well, that's absolutely what you did for us. And we were actually even amazed that when you came to us, we were more in that second camp where we had just, I think the twins were about 2 or 3 when we engaged you, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've got 4 kids. I'm out of that newborn phase. I need I either sink or swim, and I need help swimming. So we were in that second camp of needing help. But we were amazed that you didn't even want to meet the children, because you said something like parenting or the children are simply a reflection of the parents. So you're there to help the parents. So I'd love to know if you can expand on that notion. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, let me just give you a bit of history to this. So, of course, when I first started, I tended to meet parents during school time or when their children were in daycare or something like that. So for a start, the children weren't there. And of course, you sit down and I say to the parents, what's up? Tell me all about it. What's going on? And they will then begin to describe what their children might be doing, right? So as I worked with that, there then came the question of, okay, do I set up to meet this child or these children? Now, that's an interesting thing, because what I found over time is, if I go in and look at the children, first of all, they're never going to behave in front of me the way they behave at home when nobody's looking. Okay, so I know that I'm not seeing the real version of themselves. But secondly, I could look at their behavior and go, oh, I see what the issue is. Just do this. But what I found is that doesn't teach the parents anything. That's just like a prescription, go and get it. And what it really meant was that the parents weren't switching their own eyes on and learning to observe the situation for themselves. So that's the way it began. But then as it evolved, what amazed me was that this way of doing it was profoundly effective, because I would say to the parents, okay, and sometimes I would say, tell me exactly. No, I want to know second by second. So you asked your child to do this, and then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened? And what happened in the 2 hours before that? And what happened in the 2 hours after that, you know? So by them having to recall that and tell me, they are actually developing new eyes. They don't even realize it in the process. To
That's
be able to,
genius.
I know, it was an accidental creation, but I've been doing this full time for 18 years. I hardly ever meet the children. But what I'll do is I'll say, okay, now here's what I think is going on. Here's what I think would help. Now you go back in and try that and bring me back the observations. So that back and forth meant that they are then developing the understanding, the skills, learning to recognize, oh, look, in that moment that my child switched from that to that. And now I see I'm dealing with something different. Yeah.
Because that observatory power is such a skill that we often lose in this busy chaos modern life. Just to sit
Yeah.
back and pause and observe. We just learn
Yeah.
so much from that simple act. One thing that really stuck out for Phil in particular, he has never forgotten this, and it has helped us kind of manage a few tantrums. You said that children tend, and with young children anyway, tend to live in that fight or flight state, that sympathetic nervous system. And you called it
Yeah.
doggy brain. And at the
Yeah.
time, we had a son in particular that was very doggy brain. So, if you could
Yeah.
you just explain to the listener what is doggy brain and how can we help our children transition to a more parasympathetic nervous system, so that calm state, which is
Yeah.
such a tool for when we've got kids kicking off in the supermarket or wherever.
Beautiful question. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to say now is a little bit radical and in a different way of looking at it. So we could go deep into the science, and the science is wonderful, and the science will tell us all sorts of amazing things about what's happening in the circuitry and the wiring, I call it, and all of that sort of stuff. But I've always said, great, we've got all that, but there's so much information there. We need to kind of back the camera out a little bit more and look at things in more broader strokes. And the way I always begin is to describe the newborn infant and to say that newborn, vulnerable, beautiful little delicate thing, don't be fooled. That brain is a brilliant designer brain,
Mm.
and it has only one job at that moment. The defense system for that child's brain is fully activated right from birth, and that brain has only one job, and that is to control the adults, to
Hmm.
control its world as much as possible in order to survive. Pick me up now, feed me now, cuddle me now, protect me now. Without you, I'm going to die. And as I say to everyone, we all know that 5 alarm cry. Wah, 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 like,
Yes.
quick, you know,
Yeah.
save that child. Right.
Yeah.
That's how we all start life, with the defense system, the survival system, the ancient reptilian brain,
Mm.
right? Or you could call it the fight or flight response. You could say that that defense system is in the driver's seat, operating the whole brain at birth. And to make a nice, clear picture of it, I call the defense brain, or the fight or flight brain, I call it the guard dog.
The guard dog. Yeah.
Now, the guard dog has only one concept: me first, me only. And that necessarily means, sorry, not you. Don't know about you, don't care about you. Fix me now, save me now, pick me up now. So we all start life necessarily completely self-focused, self-serving, self-protective, right?
Hmm.
But in order to be able, and that part of the brain, the guard dog brain, is in fact guarded. It is hypervigilant. It's ready to squawk the moment there is any threat. It
So,
doesn't relax and chill out and come along for the ride.
so this
It
might
is,
resonate if you have a child that's extremely reactive, mine, all of
yep,
those things that we
yep,
see as parents all the time. That is the guard dog you're talking about.
That's right. And so this guard dog, if it stays in the driver's seat, then as the brain develops, it gets hardwired for habitual patterns of me first, me only. And me first, me only, guarded, hypervigilant, on alert, is intolerant of anything that might be a threat. So instead of the child growing stronger, they actually grow weaker. They don't have the ability. I've got three very important lines as to say they don't have the ability to tolerate frustration, to regulate impulsivity, and to make an effort. Because the guard dog
Mhm.
brain's not going to do any of that. No,
Can
no,
you
no.
can you say those again, Mary? They were really important.
Say it again. There are three very important lines. You could say, if you want to be super altruistic, that the whole goal of raising a child is to help to get the guard dog out of the driver's seat into the back seat. It's the emergency brain. It's a beautiful part of the brain. It's supposed to be on emergencies. And once we can then access the true child and get that doggy out of the way, we can then help that child with these three important things: to learn to tolerate frustration, right? If you can't tolerate frustration, everything is going to upset you. The second one, to regulate impulsivity. Yep.
Mm.
If you are impulsive in what you do, you can't stop, look, listen, learn, perceive. You can't actually penetrate something and assess it properly because you're governed by your impulsivity. And remember at the beginning, I said the extreme child that's hot and fast and furious and controlling, and the scared, anxious, nervous child, they're both controlling in their own way,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So tolerate frustration, regulate impulsivity, and make an effort. And the guard dog brain is not going to regulate impulsivity because everything has to go my way if I'm the guard dog brain.
Mm.
And the last one, make an effort. The guard dog brain is only going to make an effort for something it wants. I've realized that people don't really understand the power of this defense system and how it is by definition an extremist. Because if I'm your guard dog brain, if I'm your defense brain and I'm in charge of keeping you safe, then I'm going to try and keep you safe at all costs. So when this part of the brain is in the driver's seat, we are not tolerant, we don't regulate impulsivity, and we're not going to make an effort for anybody else except what serves our own needs, right? Now, of course, that's exactly what we do need when it's an emergency. This is a superhero doggy brain or animal brain. You can use any animal to describe it because it behaves like an animal in that what do all the animals out there do? They do only what's required to stay safe. And
Yeah.
that's what this brain does.
Mhm.
So therefore, its default position is me first, me only. Now, the transition that we want, the journey we want to take the child on, is to be able to settle their guard dog down and actually birth and grow and nurture the true child. So this is the most important central point of all my work, that the first thing that I really discovered is that the true child is not their guard dog, is not the defense system. The defense system is a mechanism of self-protection. It is entirely focused on that one goal. The true child is not the guard dog. And the moment you treat the true child as the guard dog and the guard dog as the true child, you might as well lock them up in a cage together and throw away the key. So
Mm.
all my work is about what tools do we need for the guard dog to settle it down in the back seat in order to free the true child. And then once we've got the true child free, how do we then help them to move from self-focus to the big picture
Mm.
of me plus you, me and others, the world of me and others, which will require tolerance of frustration, regulation of impulsivity, and making an effort in order to be able to successfully interact and integrate with the world.
Oh, Mary, that's so
My dog's
fascinating.
in the driver's seat. It's never going to happen.
No, and do you know what? I just had an epiphany just listening to you, and I know you've just started reading my book, but I've just made the connection that I called my doggy brain, my guard dog, Laura, and I called my higher self Arabelle, my true self. And my
Yeah,
whole journey is about allowing Arabelle to be the driver of my life. So this is, I will get into some of the tools that specifically for children in a second, but ultimately this is also the journey of every conscious adult.
absolutely. And this is what's so exciting about this work is that we dive in because we're trying to help the children, but the feedback I get all the time is that it absolutely helps the parents with their own personal journey and to be able to understand each other and work as co-parents, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, let's get into some of those tools
Mm,
now. One
yeah,
of the ones that you mentioned, so these are tools to help address the guard dog calm down.
yeah.
Ultimately, one of the ones that has really stuck with me is having that loving boundary. And you used an analogy, you used a couple that have stuck with me. One is you needing like a fence, but if there's a hole in the fence, still things can get through. And
That's
the
right.
other one that you use, which has really stuck with me, and I have literally used this, is you use the analogy of a mother duck and how she
Yeah,
just has this strong, she's
yeah,
always at the front, her head is held high, she's just leading the charge, and the
yeah.
ducklings are behind her, just wobbling along, but they
That's it.
follow.
That's right.
They
That's
follow.
right.
And I have literally thought of that mother duck many times when the kids aren't listening. I'm like, well, this is what's happening. You follow me, like not what with words, but I have used that imagery to give me
Right.
that inner strength. And it's really, really
That's right.
helped. So if you could talk about, firstly, I just want the listeners to know why one of the reasons why I wanted to really get you on is because having this understanding of how the kids operate gives us just compare because it's so hard in the moment if our kids are kicking off. It's really hard to find our own true selves.
That's
So
right.
all for me anyway, all this information gathering that I've done over these many, many years has enabled my brain to go, okay, I'm feeling really angry, but okay, this is what's happening with them. Okay. And it's just been enabled, not always, sometimes quite often I get it wrong, but more and more I'm able to just go, this is what's happening for them. I need to come back to myself first before I can deal with it. And that loving boundary is one of the tools that
Yeah.
has really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add about that?
Yes, I've got some mantras about that, you know. So, in the moment when the child is having a reaction of some sort, at that moment, their guard dog has taken over the controls of their brain. It only has one focus and one goal: me first, me only. I'm not okay. I'm going to throw my toys in various different ways, right? So, at that moment, I teach parents to be able to learn only through practice. It's like learning to ride a bike. You'll fall off a few times till you start to get the hang of it. But to learn to just switch into what I call full boundary mode. In other words, you become the security fence. I talk about the paddock of freedom, or for overseas people, the field of freedom, the meadow of freedom, call it paddock here, and the fence of security around that basically says to the child, you are perfectly safe here, you can offload your frustration here, and then you can get through it and come out the other side. And here's the secret: if you do this the right way, you can always rely on the child's body brain, experiential brain, to record the survival of the upset. So this is important. We all have the right to be upset. We all have the need to express our feelings, to get in touch with our feelings, to express our frustration, right? So I say to the parents, the very first thing you need to do is stop the eye contact. If you look in the eyes of the child at this moment when they are reacting, you are looking straight at the guard dog. And anyone who knows anything about dogs will tell you, you don't look in their eyes in a situation like that. It is considered to be a threat. So if you look in their eyes, then their doggy can run up that channel and have a go at you. Your doggy can run down that channel and do the wrong thing with their guard dog, because we've got a guard dog too, and it gets involved with their guard dog. So my little mantra for it is, don't act out, don't give up, don't give in. So what do I mean by that? So we don't want to act out, which means we go into our guard dog and it's doggy on doggy and we throw our toys too. Number one, it's petrol on the fire. It's gasoline on the fire. You're only going to escalate the whole thing. Number two, they cannot then hear and feel themselves because they're focusing on you as a threat at that moment. If we act out, we are not modeling what do you do when the shit hits the fan? What do you do when it all gets hard? And if we go berserk, we are teaching them that's how you deal with things. So we need to bring ourselves down and grounded, push our pause button, stop the eye contact. And now here's a really radical idea. Stop talking, because their verbal brain has gone offline. Their intellectual, rational, emotionally mature brain has gone offline. Guard dog is always a 2-year-old, a toddler, or an infant. And at that moment, trying to reason with it is just escalating the fight.
And that's
So
not necessarily if the child's too. Like, this could be a 17-year-old going back to the guard dog.
Every age. If it's
Yeah.
escalating, pull back, pause. No need to drive your point home right now. Let them move through their wave of reaction, because this has been a really big discovery that I've been working with, is that all reactive behavior comes in waves. And it goes through a meltdown and then a cool down and then a registering of new information and coming right back again. And the reason we don't know that is because we engage with the wave. And when we engage with the wave, we prolong it, we feed it, we antagonize it. So don't act out, don't give up, which means if you've said stop to something, or no, this is sorry, mate, that's a yes, and that's a yes, but this one's a no. Or if you say go, it's time. There's only ever 3 boundaries: stop, no, and go. And if you've put a boundary in place, which means you've put your security fence around the situation and said it's going to be this way right now, if you hold that boundary and you don't give up, they will throw everything they've got at it. That's right, they're perfectly safe. You are there, you are zen, you are loving, you are calm, but you're not looking in the eyes of the doggy and you're not going to talk to the doggy at all. Go quiet, which is going to make that guard dog very angry, because it's used to being able to draw you into the fight verbally. Why aren't you looking at me? Why aren't you talking to me? Well, it must mean you don't love me. Well, then I hate you and I hate myself. And rah, rah, rah. This is all the voice of the guard dog. Stay calm. In a little while, it'll be over and your true child will be back. Let it blow. Let them have their feelings. Do not make them feel bad about blowing out. I promise you, if you do this the right way, their blowouts will get smaller and smaller with time as they wire. One is don't give in. So don't act out, engage with the fight or the hissy fit. Don't give up, which means give up and go, oh, this is in the too hard basket. I don't even care if you da-da-da-da-da. And don't give in, which means give the direct result. Oh, okay, you've worn me into the ground now. Okay, I'll give you the ice cream, sort of thing, you know. So don't act out, don't give up, don't give in.
Don't act out, don't give up, don't give in.
Don't give in. Calm,
Yes.
warm, present, drop your eye contact, stop your verbal, let them throw themselves against that fence. They're not going to be harmed. And then at the end can be the cuddle and let's move on.
I love that.
Analyze it now. It takes a long time for the brain to calm down, several hours before there really is someone in there to talk to again. We always, as soon as they stop screaming, we go, now you listen to me. Duh, you'll just set it off again.
Joy Regardless is out now. It's my raw, honest memoir about rediscovering the wholeness that's been hidden in our hearts all along, described as a must-read for any soul searcher. It's available on Amazon and in selected bookstores, and the link is in the show notes. I wanted to give people a practical example of when I've used this, and it was when just to help kind of visualize it, it was when our teenager, we have phone limits on how often she can use her phone, and that there's time limits and there's limits on the apps, and of course that causes lots of pushback. So we were at our dining table and she was having a go at us about the time limits and all the things, how unfair it is. And they were all valid reasons for her, but I did exactly that. As I said, I don't always get this right, but this is one time I did. And I was doing all the things. I was sitting with her while she was kicking off. I wasn't being defensive. I every now and then I'd glance at her, but mostly I was just kind of staring straight ahead and just listening and kind of nodding. And she just went off, 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 off. And it was like a wave. And she went off, 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 off. And I just kept saying, I believe you. It's hard. Yeah. Like just get every now,
it's
validate, validate. Yeah. Just validating every now and then. We went through the whole storm. As you said, it was a whole wave. And then she went off to her room after she had the wave. But I sat there through the whole outburst. And then she came down. Oh, it would have been a while. Yeah, it would have been a while. I can't remember how long, but she got it. Like she just there was no, the argument was done. There was no more. And then she actually said to me, then we've had a few of those about these phone limits, and I've had the same response. And then she actually said to me a couple of weeks ago, I get it now. I'm going to do the same for my kids. So it was a good outcome. It was a good. I mean, I don't really always get it right. I promise the listener, I am far from perfect, and my kids will tell you that. But when we can come back to our true self and use these tools, they do work. It's amazing. They do work. The other thing that has really worked for me, Mary, and I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to briefly let the listeners know this, is you created this thing called healthy household rhythms. And one thing that has stuck with me is you said that there's transition times where the kids need us the most. And if we can ideally structure our day to be available at those times. So what has stuck with me is when they wake up in the morning, when they come home from school, and when they go to bed at night. And I have definitely noticed that with my eldest two, especially the going to bed at night, that is when they want to download. That is, I'm kind of done at that point. It's 9:30 and I want to go to bed, but they want to talk. So I've never forgotten to just make myself available at those transition times to help them process whatever's going on for them for the day. So can you just briefly explain transition times and healthy household rhythms?
Okay, so first and foremost, we are fundamentally an animal brain first, and then we grow our humanity out of that. And when we are stressed, we go back to animal brain. All right. The animal part of our brain is what keeps us secure. Okay. All right. So all of the organs in the body are rhythmic. They all have circadian rhythms. And all of the animals out there in the world are being rhythmatized by nature itself. You know, night and day, seasons, etc., food sources, water sources, etc. If the organs and the body of the child are securely settled down, then the child doesn't have to use extra bandwidth to try and make itself feel their self feel secure. All right. So the whole idea of a rhythm is that I call it, and this is a term I didn't use when I was with you, Lara, because I've been developing this term over the last few years. In fact, I did a conference fully on this not too long ago. I call it shaping the riverbed. If you shape the day so that the river is firm and sound and wise in its direction, then the water will flow effortlessly through that riverbed, right? If the riverbed is weak and soft or unpredictable or chaotic or whatever, the water's going to seep out and bog and go in all sorts of directions. Now, this riverbed is the rhythm of the day to try, because there are two primal things children have to be able to do in childhood. Number one, they have to be able to play. And I mean at all ages, right till the day they leave home. The default position of the child brain is to play in order to experiment and to learn and to grow. And they will always default to play. That is their foundational condition. But the other aspect of childhood is they need to learn how to interact with the world and be with others. They have to learn how to help with something, how to participate, how to actually stem the play or regulate the guard dog, hold it back right now, and actually give something for others and not just be all about me at that moment, So this is the combination in childhood. They are moving all the time between freedom of play and the focus of needing to be able to engage in a task and help him follow through. Now, in the most simplistic terms, because we're short on time, when a child is in free play, free experimentation, that is their guard dog off leash running free. They are following their impulsivity, and that is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be impulsive, intuitive, creative, experimental, all of that sort of stuff, all right? So the simple theory is this. If you want to create a rhythm, you've got to be able to manage the guard dogs. Otherwise, the guard dogs are going to just hijack your rhythm and do what they want to do. So when you create a rhythm, if you first of all give no choices and freedom to the guard dog, this is what we're doing right now. We're getting up now. We're getting dressed now. We're going to the kitchen to help to get breakfast ready now. We're sitting down now. We're going to have breakfast together. We're going to clear our plates away. We're going to go brush our teeth, wash our face, go to the loo, toilet, whatever. And then when all of that sort of helping the world stuff is done, which requires focus, which is not their natural, they'll focus on what they're interested in, but to focus on what the world might want of them, that requires self-regulation, right? So if you get the business stuff done first and then release your ponies, I call it corral your ponies, then release your ponies, you're creating this kind of breathing where you focus and then you play, and then you focus, and then you play. So when you create this rhythm to the day, the children get used to it. They get used to two modes. Oh, now is when we're expected to focus, and now is when I'm free to play,
Yeah.
And so that rhythm of the day settles them all down. There was one more word that the thing about the 4 transitions, and dinner time is the 4th one, is that children don't do transitions well. And this is simply because they don't have the big picture yet. I call it arriving at the top of the mountain and seeing the overview of not just me, and me only, but me and the rest of the world. What is needed here? What's the overview, the big picture? They don't have the big picture, so they experience transition periods as pressure. You're being nagged, you're being pushed on. Hurry up, get your clothes on, whatever. Eat your breakfast, or come out of play now, focus on dinner, or time to calm down now and settle into bedtime routine. That doesn't come naturally to children because their natural default position is to impulsively play, which is necessary and needed, but we need to help them create the rhythm between those two modes. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I mean, one thing we use in our house is, yeah, we do the jobs and we play. So that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Now,
that has
the
helped.
worst of that is that the children get up in the morning, go straight out to the living room, start to play or play in their bedrooms and eat or don't eat, dress or don't dress. They've gone completely into their off-leash free guard dog. And now you want to get them back to eat, to dress, to get ready, whatever. You're going to have a fight.
Mm.
And the big thing about shaping the riverbed in the right way is to meet the needs before they have to bring out their guard dogs to try and get their needs met, because repetition of the guard dogs coming out hardwires patterns of negative interaction and behavior, or reactive. Negative is a bit of a weird word, but reactive
Yeah.
behavior.
I
Yeah.
mean, that makes sense. And I think what one of the biggest things I got when we worked with you is knowing all this stuff helps create a routine. And we all have to have our own individual routines ultimately with work schedules and different bus times for schools, etc. But knowing that in the morning, when they go home from school, at dinner time, and at bedtime are the times when the kids are most likely to go into doggy. So
That's right.
knowing that helps create a rhythm that prevents that a little bit
Yeah.
more. So
Oh,
one of the very
right.
simple tools that you gave me that I still use to this day is I get up before the children and I prepare breakfast. And so when they get up, they
Yeah.
just simply have to eat. Then they know they
Yeah.
just quickly do their teeth, get changed, all that sort of stuff. And then they
Well
play
done.
before we have to go to school.
Yeah.
So just preempting the doggy at every point
That's
does help create that flow.
And this is based on the understanding that the brain is following the dopamine pathway. Everything the brain builds, it is doing what works. The dopamine pathway means there's a reward for what you do. It works, right? The feedback is yes, that worked, right? And the brain builds through repetition. So if there's repetition of doggy behavior, then their brains are being hardwired for persistent habitual doggy stuff. But if we can get doggies into the back seat and nurture and free the true children, then as we build, we're building responsiveness rather than reactivity.
Yeah. So I wanted to give just on that, I'll give a practical example of our before and after I knew
Yeah,
this. So
yeah,
before was one of the kids would get up, demand XYZ for breakfast. I want this. No, I want this. No, I want this. No, I want cereal. No, I want eggs. No, I want baked beans. But now knowing that that's a transition time, knowing their different temperaments, knowing I'm there to tame the doggy, they get up and there's baked beans on toast for breakfast. It's
yeah.
just there. So it's just practically preventing the chance for the child to get into that, no, I want, because breakfast is there. Yeah.
And I mean, I have some somewhat radical points of view on this compared to some schools of thought, but and it's, and that is that the first 8, 9 years of life, the children are mixing fantasy and reality. You only have to think of Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, right? Which means they're not fully awake, observant in a persistent, consistent way. They're going in and out of reality. And that is also the foundational period of building your core tools of being able to meet the world and cope with the world. And what I say is a bit heretical to some people, but it is, do not give choices to children in their early
The younger
years
years. Yeah.
when they are guard dog dominant. There's plenty of time for delicious, wonderful choices and learning from choices after 8 or 9 when they finally throw off fantasy. Before then, they're still putting down the foundations of being able to meet the world. And if it is like, what do you want to wear? What do you want to eat? When do you want to go? Do you want this? Do you want that? All day long, giving choices. It's a wonderful idea if that was the true child you were giving the choices to. But it's not. It's the guard dog that is dominant in these early years. The guard dog is self-focused and self-serving. If you give choices to children whose guard dog is in the driver's seat, you are giving the power to that part of the wiring. And then when it comes for them to be asked to engage positively, to be responsive, to be able to regulate their emotions, to be able to integrate with others, guard dog will be, no, I'm used to doing it my
My
way,
way. Yeah.
and having the freedom. So we're not understanding properly what a child is. And we're using ideas for older children on younger children. And
Yeah.
creating huge problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. I can see the transition from, when you came into our lives, the kids were all
Yeah.
young and we used a lot
Yeah.
of these tools, but now obviously we're tweens and teenagers. They can have,
Right.
we create more space on the weekends for choice with
Yeah.
going back to the breakfast example, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can absolutely see how in those earlier years that boundary needs to be a lot firmer.
And your choice making has to be able to meet your needs, but also the needs of others. Me plus you, not just me. So that's the secret, is trying to get them over to the other side of the equation, not the infant brain, me first, me only, I'll scream or pick me up now, but being able to respond.
Now, I have two
Mm.
quick, well, they're not quick, but I have two questions I'd love to squeeze in just because one's out of my own curiosity. I would love to get
Sorry.
your opinion on this. The term conscious parenting is thrown around a lot in our culture. What does that
Yeah.
term actually mean? It may be something that we've already talked about today, but what does that term mean to you? What does it mean? How do we become conscious parents?
Yes. It's interesting because over the years, as this work has developed, what I've discovered is that we create solutions out of practical activity, because the body brain is the foundation of the whole brain. And then we build our emotional brain on that, and finally, our intellectual brain. So I have a more sort of practical orientation to consciousness. So yes, one version of consciousness can be to develop our own self development, for want of a better word, so that, meditation, inspiration, mindfulness, all of that. I absolutely agree. That is all very, very important. But for me, conscious parenting simply means to be fully present. And that doesn't mean be perfect. It doesn't mean be perfect, but conscious parenting means to understand that there is your true child, and then there's your child's guard dog, and you need to use the right set of tools for each one of them, and you need to be able to recognize in a moment where the child is at. And all that comes from being able to be present, right? So to be fully present in this attitude of a sense of delight and wonder at this child, but then calm in the face of their trials and tribulations, to be able to hold it all in this beautiful way, like the fence around the paddock is just a metaphor for this. Hold them in this safe space and allow them to unfold, and be reverent towards what's unfolding, just simply by learning to be present,
That's
and
beautiful.
to be able to, yeah, yeah. And to, maybe I should also, I mean, there's much more you can say this, but we need to know ourselves in order to regulate ourselves, and in order to help them. So
Yes.
we conscious parenting, in a sense. Do you know, I have a little saying, I've got millions of little sayings, but one of them is, um, you don't raise your children and then when they've flown the nest, you go off and find your guru. Your guru is standing here right in front of you. It is simply your child saying, transform yourself for the sake of me. That in order to help me, can you transform yourself so that you can be awake enough to really make the right decisions? It is very, very, very difficult to hold a boundary, especially in today's world of instant gratification, high levels of satiation, of desire, giant multi-billion-dollar machinery out there, all designed to satiate and grow our guard dogs in a sense. To hold a boundary is a very, very difficult thing to do, and to do it calmly and lovingly without harm is an absolute art. So we have to be able to work on our own reactivity. And that's the beautiful thing is that parenting is a path of initiation. What's initiation but simply waking up? That's all it is.
It's beautiful, and it's just
What I
so
can say
true.
is that consciousness is waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
I
think,
mean,
you know, knowing that our children have these two selves, this doggy self and our true self, makes us realize we too have these two selves. And
right.
we have this doggy self, we have this true self. I call them Laura and Arabelle. But as you say, it takes conscious effort to choose to come back to our true self
Yeah.
and model that through
Listen
presence.
to this one, to be able to listen and hold our seat, and then be able to work it through and come back. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Got it. The secret is to understand that when you meet a person, there is a true self behind their guard dog, and everything, all behavior has a reason where it comes from.
I mean, just if we could all see the world through compassion. It's not easy, but seeing the world through that compassionate lens is such a beautiful approach to life that I just resonate with so much.
Yeah, non-judgment and forgiveness.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's another big aspect of parenting, to be able to hold a line, but forgive and forgive and forgive. Don't worry, mate. Yep, that turned to custard. That fell apart for overseas people who don't use the term turn to custard as we
Yeah.
do in New Zealand. But yeah, that all fell apart. Don't worry. Come on. Tomorrow, let's get up and try again.
Yeah.
We want to champion our children. We're on their side. We want to help them to grow and become strong to be able to meet the world.
I love
And
that.
when we are loving to their guard dogs, we are teaching them to be loving to themselves. So
Yes.
many of us whose guard dogs were punished by our parents, are unable to be loving to our own guard dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I
Mm.
say to my kids to be loving to their guard dogs is I might just say something as simple as, "You're a good kid. You just had a hard moment. It's okay. We all do."
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I
Because don't we
know.
all have hard moments? My
Absolutely.
goodness. Yeah.
The biggest arts of parenting is learning how to move on,
Yeah.
to move through, to move on.
I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest keys to life as well, Mary. So my final question for you, because I've taken up so much of your
Yeah.
precious time, is my Substack newsletter or my podcast is called Deeper Threads. So I was wondering, is there a deeper thread of life that you want to bring to the light? So is there something that you know to be true that may not be known to others? And by sharing that, it might bring them some clarity or some light. And we may have already touched on it already, but I'd love to know if if there's a deeper thread you wanted to bring up.
I would say that understanding that we're all born with the guard dog in the driver's seat, and that the journey of life is a journey of turning that guard dog into our faithful companion that's going to serve us in the right way. And the guard dog's agenda is fear-based. The guard dog is all about the safety of me. Therefore, its entire orientation and focus is fear. And this is why I had this wonderful quote of Gandhi's on my wall in my office, is that I would say that I've learned that the enemy is fear. The enemy isn't out there. It's the fear in here. And it expresses itself as hate when it's under the guns, right? But it is fear, and that love is a choice. And love is greater than fear. It is bigger, it is vast, it is something that there is as much of it abundantly as you need. You simply have to choose. And all of my work is based on the fact that the guard dog is a reactive self-protector, the true self says, I choose. You hit me, I choose to not hit you back. I choose. So, love over fear.
I love that. That is so beautiful. Mary, how can people find, you've got a book coming out next year. So if
Yeah,
you can tell us, I'm sure people would love to know more from you after this conversation. So how can
yeah.
people follow you or find out about your book?
So my platform is called Plum Parenting, PLUM, as in fruit. And if you just simply go to the Plum Parenting Facebook page, you will find me. You can also find my website by just typing in Plum Parenting. I've written this book. It's now been accepted by Bateman Books in New Zealand, and the process of developing it ready for publishing is undergoing right now. And it will be coming out probably in the early part, with any luck, of next year. Um,
Great.
I am in a process right now where I'm going to revamp my Facebook page and my website. If you go along and like that page now, it means that when I finally get everything up and running, um, you'll be notified that things are on the way. You won't see anything there yet about the book because I've been too busy. For the last 16 years, I've had a 1 year waiting list almost
Wow.
all the time, and
Yeah.
I just have not had. My poor technological son laments the state of my poor Facebook page. He just shakes his head at me. So it will be brought into the 21st century, and it will be sorted out. Have a bit of patience, it will come. But if you get on there and like it now, you'll be eventually hearing all about
Perfect. And I will put links to that
it.
on the in the
Yeah,
show notes. Well, you have been so important to us in our parenting journey, and I just deeply value your insight. So thank you so much for that and for your time today.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, go well. Thank
Okay,
you, Mary.
Tara. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Right in the middle of the episode, Mary said that the most important point of all her work is to help parents understand that the guard dog, the impulsive, reactive, me-centric part of the self, is not the true child. And all those sometimes intense reactions, the rolling around on the floor tantrums of a 3-year-old or the door slamming teenager, and yep, we've had them all, are really mechanisms of self-protection. The true child, and indeed our own true selves, sits behind all that intensity, all those emotions, and all the things we say in the heat of the moment that we don't really mean. For me, knowing this one fact enables me to see my children's intensity, the tantrums and all of it, with so much more compassion. And not just our children's, my own intensity, my husband's, maybe even a political leader's. We don't have to always like how someone behaves, but we can know that in any given moment, whether it's in our living rooms or on the news, that behavior is a sign of someone who hasn't yet learned how to regulate their guard dog. And behind it, there is always a true self waiting to be free. One thing I'm marveling at is that without using the same language as Mary, episode 1 with Brad and episode 2 with Jimmy and other upcoming episodes all offer us tools to help tame that guard dog. Walking with our feet on the earth, deep breathing, writing. If you haven't yet listened to those episodes, please do. Because when I think about it, that's really what Deeper Threads is about. Taming our fearful, reactive selves so we can remember who we truly are. Mary's tools to help regulate the guard dogs of our children include loving but firm boundaries. Stop, no, or go. The mother duck is a great visual to help remember this as she embodies that firm lovingness. So, when the guard dog is active in our kids, Mary says to step into full boundary mode. She reminds us not to act out or react from our own guard dogs, but instead push the pause button, calm ourselves, and keep that boundary firm without giving up and without giving in. Avoiding eye contact and limiting our words when our child is really kicking off helps us hold the boundary firm while allowing the kids to ride the waves of their emotions and express themselves. This is not easy. I can say this from experience. Mary even said that it is an art that takes practice. I absolutely don't get it right every time, and that's when an apology and repair work takes the stage. A simple, "I'm sorry for that" reaction really does go a long way. Mary also spoke of creating healthy household rhythms and routines, what she calls shaping the riverbed, corralling your ponies and releasing your ponies, to help settle the guard dog. She reminded us that transition times, waking up, coming home from school, dinner, and bedtimes, are when the guard dog is most likely to come alive. Being grounded and available in those moments and limiting choice in the early years are ways we can help the guard dog from jumping into the driver's seat. All of these tools and more will be available in Mary's up-and-coming book, which I'm so excited about. If you join me over at Substack, I'll email you when the book's released, and I'll also have 2 signed copies to give away to our Substack community. You can sign up for free at laracharles.substack.com. I'll also link to Mary's Facebook page, Plum Parenting, in the show notes, so you can follow her announcements and news. And if you'd like to work with Mary directly, you can join her waiting list. She really is such a delight to work with. Now, if you have neurodiverse children, as we do, you may be wondering how these tools apply. I've asked Mary the same question, and I'll be posting her response over on my Substack. So if you're also a neurodiverse household, join me over at Substack and let's continue the conversation. I wanted to close with Mary's beautiful response to my question of what is conscious parenting. She said, "To be conscious is simply to be fully present." And if you read any of the great spiritual texts, I think you'll find the same truth. Being present means not getting lost in thoughts about how our child should behave or how things should work out. It's about meeting what's right in front of us without preconceived ideas or shoulds. And often what's in front of us is the guard dog. So, as Mary says, let's use the tools to guide it into the back seat. And to do that, we first need our own tools to free our own true selves. That requires effort and a willingness to explore our depths. It requires us to shape our own riverbeds, establish healthy routines, set boundaries, self-inquire. It's not easy, but isn't that why we're here? To parent ourselves too, to transform. As Mary said, and I'll end with this, your guru is standing right in front of you. It's simply your child saying, "Transform yourself for the sake of me." But if you're here listening to this, you already know that. You've chosen this podcast because you want to transform. You want to understand your inner life and you want to feel whole. Me too. I'm with you. And everything I create is directed at helping us do just that. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you again, Mary. You are an absolute treasure. Thanks for listening. If this episode resonated, subscribe over at laracharles.substack.com to ask any questions. The link is in the show notes. My Substack newsletter and this podcast are free because I believe these conversations and reflections should be available to everyone. But I am a one-woman show and any support would be so appreciated. If you are in a position to support my work financially, you can become a paid subscriber over at Substack for just the price of a cup of coffee a month, and you get the audiobook version of my memoir for free as a thank you gift. I'm so grateful to everyone who has already become a paid subscriber. You help me keep this project going. This podcast is also available on Apple or Spotify, and you can follow by clicking the plus or follow button. Deeper Threads is here to help us remember who we are beneath the surface. It's a show for anyone yearning for more meaning. So please share the podcast with your loved ones because we get to more depth, kindness, and justice, all the good stuff, when we are all willing to dig a little deeper. Thanks so much to you for being here.